The topic I would like to start with is at the front of many voters' minds. According to the Siena College Research Institute's polls, the economy is the #1 issue for voters. Former President Trump, according to those polls, is more trusted by voters to handle the economy. Recently, Vice President Harris has begun to close that gap, with 52% of respondents saying that they trust Trump more to lead the economy, compared to 45% for Harris as of late October. Dr. Call, I'd like to start with you. Can you tell me why voters seem to trust the former president more on the economy?
I think this is a larger trend in American politics where the Republican Party is seen as being kind of the financial party, while the Democratic Party is the one for all of your social programs that you might care for. And so we've seen this evolve over time, not just in this election, but that has seemed to be a trend in previous elections as well. I believe that in 2020, Trump was also seen as being the preferred candidate for the economy, but we continuously see people preferring different options like this in every single election. And so I think this goes quite along with what we've been seeing, especially since the Great Recession. I've been teaching about the Great Recession in 2008 with my class. There's a lot of different grievances that came out of that, obviously. And so people still have those concerns about the economy, so it makes sense that that is still on the top of people's minds.
Absolutely. And Dan, I'd like to turn it to you. Many voters have said that they do not trust President Harris on the economy purely because of the policies of the Biden administration. How will the vice president's economic plan differ from the president's?
Yeah, I think there are key differences. I think what's important to note is that this truncated 100-day campaign that the vice president has been on has eroded former President Trump's support on the economy. I think over President Biden it was about 35 points, and as you mentioned, brought that down to about 4. So, that takes a lot of good campaigning, and that takes clear economic policies. And some ways that are different would be especially on her policies on housing. Pledging to create 3 million new housing units, pledging to take on corporate landlords that are buying up single-family homes or buying up multi-unit apartment buildings, and using algorithm rent-setting software that fixes prices throughout the industry, which makes rents higher for everyone. So there are key issues. Obviously, the child tax credit, restoring the child tax credit has been a key plank of the vice president's campaign. The Biden administration did do that in the American Rescue Plan. Unfortunately, it was only temporary. But when that happened, we saw childhood poverty cut in half. And so, I think a lot of the sentiments that we've seen in the country are a response to what we saw in the pandemic, which was super high inflation across the world. But what we also have seen in the Biden administration is a faster and stronger recovery than any of the other G10 nations out there. And that hasn't fully broken through for a number of reasons. But I think the vice president has done a great job closing that gap and making clear what portions of the economy, what portions of the platform that she would change.
Absolutely. And Paul, I'd like to turn to you and ask, according to CNN, the former president does plan to impose a universal tariff on imports to the U.S. He also plans to create tax cuts for individuals and for corporations, and says he'll cut energy costs. But he does not support widespread student loan forgiveness and has vowed to protect Social Security and Medicare. What effects will the former president's plans have on the economy?
Well, I think the most important thing, this is the first time we've had a direct contrast between a former president who had an economic program and a set of economic metrics, whether it be the inflation rate, whether it be mortgage rates, whether it would be increases in gross income and actual income for virtually every ethnic group. More people were working, more people were, the income gap was shortening for the rich and the poor based on a universal economic growth model. And I think it goes back to what other presidential campaigns have had and used as a standard. Are you better off 4 years ago, or are you better off today? And I think Donald Trump's plans, he wants to take a very strong role for the American auto industry. He wants to curtail the mandatory pushing of everybody into an EV. That's going to maintain auto industry jobs. He wants to go back to some of the energy policies which made the United States a very strong economic oil exporter, so that China and Russia are not being able to, and Iran, make billions of dollars at the expense of money which would have come to the United States. The economy is largely driven on energy, food prices, housing materials, everything requires energy. And the difference was gas was $1.80 a gallon 4 years ago, and now it's over $3 a gallon, but it's been as high as 6 and 7 across the country. So I think what Donald Trump has done is he has said to people, in this instance, do you want to go back to the better economic circumstances that you had 4 years ago, before there was trillions of dollars in spending, a war on energy, uncontrolled migrant immigration? People are able to judge for the first time two administrations side by side.
Absolutely, and you brought up some great points that we are going to talk about in
Okay.
just a little while.
All right.